We are officially going live.
All right.
Hey everybody, we are here. We are officially live. I'm so excited to have you all here for the first AIM workshop of the spring or the fall semester of 2019. My name is Garrett Mintz. I'm the founder of Ambition Emotion. Our guest speaker is Evangelia Leclaire. I know that it is 7:50, so we are going to get started in about 10 minutes, but just to prime everybody, we have started and opened up the link right now. So we are gonna get this posted. All the students will be able to, all of you all will be able to see the link and be able to hop in and join. And we'll get started momentarily. So if you get in early, that's awesome. Just give us a minute. Or give us rather 10 minutes so then everybody else can join. But yeah, at 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will get started. So let's hang out. Great. So we are getting the link posted right now. I'm just getting prepared. I'm really excited to have you all here this semester. We have expanded and we are now servicing more students. I'm so excited to be working with you all this semester. I'm excited to share with you all our story and why we do what we're doing and how we can help you as you work towards your own professional path and your own professional passions. So one quick note, well, actually, I'll mention the note as we get a little bit closer to 8:00. Evangelia has some children that are upstairs and they potentially may come downstairs, and just if there's ever an interruption, that is why. By the way, I wanted to introduce Evangelia. I'm just going to briefly introduce. I'll give her more of an established introduction as we get closer to 8:00, as we go through the workshop. But I just wanted to just introduce Evangelia. Evangelia, say hey to everybody.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me, Garrett.
Of course, of course. I'm so excited to have you here. So actually, while we have a little bit of time, I'd love, if you don't mind, share with us a little bit about your travels this summer. You went to Europe, which was really, really cool. Yeah, would love to learn a little bit about that.
Yes, absolutely. So my family and I, we had traveled to England. We spent a few days in England as a stopover to Crete in Greece. My family's originally from Greece. Crete is the largest island in Greece, which is where my mother is from. My husband and I got married there 10 years ago. So we decided to have a 10-year anniversary and bring some folks from our family with us. They came to join us again for a 10-year. So we had about 12 family members from my husband's side, and a lot of my family from my mom's side resides in Greece. My mom's from here. So there was just so many family members, and it was amazing to be able to spend all that time there. And then we had a stopover in Lake Como, Italy, en route to the States, because we had some friends who lived there as well, or excuse me, had a retreat that they were running there.
That's very cool. That's amazing. By the way, for any students that are just joining in now, no worries, you have not missed anything. We are just talking casually as we're getting the workshop started. The workshop doesn't start for another 6 more minutes. So if you're hearing us talking and you're like, oh no, did I miss something from before? No, you haven't missed anything. You are totally all right. We will be getting started in, yeah, like I said, 6 minutes. So I guess maybe to get started, if we have any viewers at the moment, would love to learn, what did you do this summer? What were you working on, or did you do anything very cool? Love to see it in the comments section. Just post it casually, or share. I'd love to learn about it. And yeah, by the way, when you post in the comment section, that's how we are able to track that you attended the workshop. So give a post. By the way, if you are using an email address or username that is not clearly identifiable by your name, that's totally okay. Just send us an email after the workshop. Just say, hey, by the way, that username, that's my email. That's how we're able to keep track of it. You can also post in the comments like, hey, this is your name, if you'd like to do that as well. Either way is completely fine. But yeah, if you're using an email or a username that is clearly identifiable or something that we already have in our system, no need, we are good. But just to be safe, it's always nice just to mention that, like, if you're using a username or an email that is not normal. Oh, I'm realizing that I'm probably gonna get a lot of little like update beeps because we're going to have new people subscribing to us, which is really cool. Awesome. So that is, we've got another 4 more minutes left. So Evangelia, any other cool things that you worked on this summer? Or that
That
you
was a
did
big one. I
besides
have to say, you know, when I take a trip like that, which is pretty normal, my husband and I in August, we usually go camping or cross country. That was before kids, and now with kids, we have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. It had been a while since we took a long, extensive trip like that. But in July, we did a lot of really cool things. Like we went to a drive-in movie theater, which was awesome. And we went camping a few times and fishing, which was really cool. So I just felt like my summer was full of so many things because of the variety, which I think is something that we all crave, you know?
Yeah, that's really cool. That's amazing. And so I guess what I'm curious to know is when it comes to, and this is kind of like an early like teaser question, but when it comes to work-life balance, especially after you have a family and as maybe your responsibility on your personal life grow, how does that affect maybe your vacation days and how you spend those vacation days?
Well, I've always worked in a capacity where we as a family always took large vacations. So that's just, even individually, it's the type of career that I had was always where, you know, you had a 3-week period where you had time off, or a 4-week period where you had time off. So that has never really changed. I think now, however, what I've realized over the last 5 years is more important to me that I'd like to build more into my routine, is to really have those pockets of days and weekends that where they almost feel like a staycation or a vacation. That I just think that from college and on was never my norm. I just kind of adopted the college lifestyle, like vacation mentality, where it's like I took really long breaks, and I've always had careers, which you'll hear about, that allowed me to do that. So
Yeah, so that's interesting. That's insightful. I really like it. It's more or less making sure that weekend times or times that you're off, you're totally off. I think
right.
sometimes we think like, oh, we got to, be hustling all the time, but it is important to have that time off because you will burn out if you are not fully just like taking time for yourself. And that's a really good point, because I could see probably a lot of people as they first started in their careers, if a company or an employer that you're working for, says, hey, you have to keep working these hours, or they'll ask you to work these hours, you might feel obligated to do that. But if you don't say, hey, this is the time that I have off, this is the time that I have on, and when I'm off, I don't want to get anything. And that's that's important to establish those boundaries. I think is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, for sure. I have to say that I never had those boundaries, like for like a good 18 years of my career, because I just always had those 4-week off vacations or 3-week off vacations where I was out of the country or out somewhere where nobody could reach me. So I've always operated on the 24/7 on mentality because of the career that I had. And it's just in the last 5 years that I've learned to try and adopt a different way.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's really fascinating. By the way, for any students that are just hopping in right now, you have not missed anything if you heard us talking. We are just talking about our summers. We got started a little bit early. We're not going to get started for another minute when everybody jumps in. By the way, I do want to note, Evangelia's does have some children upstairs, and there is a chance that they may come downstairs, and just wanted to forewarn and just let you know that everything's okay, and there might be potentially an interruption, but it is Sunday night, and I'm grateful to have Evangelia here because, it's not every night that you can have someone come. It's not every Sunday night that you can have someone come and join you on a workshop. Obviously, scheduling for everybody's calendar is always difficult, and I wanted to put that preface out there.
Thank you. I hear there's not as much of a pitter patter as there was 15 minutes ago, so hopefully they've settled down and there won't be a massive chaotic disturbance. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, hey, everybody, welcome to the first Ambition and Motion workshop of the fall semester of 2019. I'm so excited, so happy to have you all here. My name is Garrett Mintz, and I am the founder of Ambition in Motion. So you all have signed up for this program. If this is your first semester in Ambition in Motion, welcome. If this is your second semester, if you've been to Ambition in Motion before, welcome back. I'm so excited to have you. If you've never been here before, you are in for a treat, because this program is all about how you can get yourself to where you want to be. At Ambition in Motion, our vision, our team's vision, is a world where the vast majority of people, not some people, not the select few, not a couple, but the vast majority of people are excited to go to work. When they're there, their expectations meet reality. And when they come home, they feel fulfilled. That is what we are all about. That is what we're all here to do. Literally everything we do is to help you get to a point where you feel confident enough to say, this is where I want to go, confident enough to say, this is where I don't want to go, and ultimately get yourself to the position that you feel like, wow, I'm in a position where I feel fulfilled by my work and doing something that I think is meaningful to me and rewarding me, whether that be through promotions, work-life balance, or just the intrinsic motivation of something that personally drives me with what professionally drives me. So that is something that we are all about. So there are three components to the Ambition in Motion program. There's the matching, there are the workshops, which is what you're in tonight, and then there's the employer network. So I'll explain all three right now. When it comes to the matching, you are matched with your mentor based on a select set of criteria. Now, when we first got started in mentorship, we matched people just on career interest alone. And one thing that we found that was surprising was that there was very little correlation to successful mentorship when we just only match on career interests. So for example, if your dream company was JP Morgan Chase and we connected you with JP Morgan Chase, with somebody at JP Morgan Chase, there wasn't necessarily a guarantee that you would enjoy your mentor. And we thought this was surprising. We thought, okay, you want to be a financial analyst at JP Morgan. We got you a financial analyst at JP Morgan and you didn't like your mentor. What's going on here? So we partnered with some industrial organizational psychologists. And one thing that we learned is that there's this thing called work orientation, which is how you view your work. So some people view their work as a job. Some people view their work as a career. Some people view their work as a calling. And so it's like a triangle. By the way, there's no such thing as a right or wrong work orientation, and it can change based on your stage in life and the work that you're doing, the task that you're working on. And just to elaborate, someone who views their work as a job, their focus is on work-life balance. Someone whose focus is on career, their focus is on promotion and working up the ladder. And someone whose focus is on calling, their focus is on how does a personal and professional mission align. Now, what we learned was that when we matched mentors and mentees together based on work orientation, the likelihood of successful mentorship increased substantially. And by successful mentorship, I mean mentorship where sure, the student and mentor had the requisite number of conversations over the course of the semester, but that the student was able to achieve his or her goal by the end of the semester, that both the mentee and mentor stayed in touch even after the program was over, that they found the relationship to be both productive and quality, and that overall they were more engaged in that relationship. So we saw massive increases when we aligned work orientation. And we hypothesized that the reason for this is that mentors often are going to give guidance based on what they would have wanted to hear when they were a student in college. So if their work orientation isn't aligned with yours, they might not give you the insight and guidance that you want to hear. So we've created an algorithm through our assessment, which is what you took to join the program, that helps align your work orientation with your mentor's work orientation. And even if you're matched with a mentor that might not be exactly in your field, that's okay, because we know that their work orientation is going to match with you, and more likely than not, you're going to have a much more positive relationship with somebody than just getting matched with someone in a field that you like, but they're just not a work orientation match. We also look obviously at your career interest. We'll look at what region you like to work in and where your mentor currently works. We look at where you went to school, and then we look at your degree path. And so those are the things that we'll look at when it comes to getting matched with your mentor. Now, when it comes to the workshops, I'll explain those in just a moment. We're in the first workshop, by the way, but the final component of the program is our employer network. So there are companies that come to us and say, hey, we want to hire students because they've gone through this program. So similarly to our matching algorithm, we thought to ourselves, well, if we could align work orientation on a corporate level, could that mean that students are more engaged in their work when they get that job? And would that mean that they stay longer and ultimately are just more fulfilled by that work? And initial results indicate yes. So this is really exciting research that we're doing. We actually applied for a grant through the Society for Industrial Organizational Psychologists. We haven't heard back about whether or not we've gotten it, but we've applied for it and we're optimistic that we'll get it. But it's really cool. It's a really cool research and a really cool way of objectively looking at how you and your personality can fit with the company culture that you're most interested in, because just because you were successful at one company doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be a cultural fit at another company. And so we're trying to look at a way to put you in the best position to succeed. So back to that whole mission of helping you find work that you're excited about. When you're there, your expectations meet reality. When you come home, you feel fulfilled. So when it comes to the workshops, workshop 1 is tonight, tomorrow night, and Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The second workshop, which is about how to make the most out of informational interviews, and really it's about how to network in a non-transactional way. By that I mean, you don't want to go up to a professional and say, hey, can you get me a job? That's not good. So that workshop's on October 1st at 8 p.m., on October 2nd at 9:30 p.m., and on October 3rd at 8 p.m. Our third workshop is about professional interviews. These are the things that you're not just taught in your career service office, but the things outside of that, like your body language, or how you shake your hands, or how much eye contact you should be making, or how you can get yourself into a power pose before having an interview, or just all the things that go before and after that you may not have learned in school that can help you prepare for those experiences. That'll be on October 20th, 21st, and 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then our final workshop, which is about how to crush it in the internship, how to go into an internship and not just do the tasks that you're asked to do, but go above and beyond. Meet people that are at the company that you wouldn't have met with unless you put yourself out there. That workshop's on November 10th, 11th, and 12th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So the deliverable from this workshop, our deliverable is all about how to get your foot in the door with professional opportunities. So maybe you're thinking to yourself like, okay, I'm going to go to a career fair, or maybe I'm going to connect with people on LinkedIn, but what do I say? How do I get my foot in the door? This workshop is all about that. So the deliverable from this workshop is, one of the things that we've learned is that teaching somebody something is one of the best ways to learn and internalize something. So your deliverable from this workshop is to teach somebody something that you learned during this workshop. So the best way to learn is to teach it. Take a picture with that person you taught and upload it to our site. That's just how we can keep track that you essentially did it. You can also post on LinkedIn something that you learned through this workshop and just tag us. That's how we can keep track of it. Is this a requirement for essentially successful completion of the program? No. So if you're thinking to yourself like, oh, is this a requirement? You don't have to do this. But why do this? It helps you make the most out of this program. Helps you take advantage of this. I mean, we're here delivering this information to you to help you get prepared. If you're not applying it, it's obviously going to be much more difficult to stick. But we also use data on who participate and is most participative during the workshops and during the program, especially when it comes to our employer network. So if you're actively doing all the things that we're asking you to do, and we've got a company that seems to be a good fit for you, we'll help put you together because we know that you're someone that's actively engaged with what we're doing. So that's just another reason for why to apply the deliverable during the workshop, ask questions during the workshop, actively participate in the workshop, and just, yeah, try to make the most out of this because we want to help you take the advantage of the opportunities we have. And then at the bare minimum, even if you're doing the task, you're building those skills and ideally getting those opportunities for yourself. So one other question I hear often is, when will you find out who your mentor is? That will happen on Wednesday, September 18th. So this Wednesday, you'll find out your mentor on the AIM dashboard. So when you just go into the AIM website, you just go on the left-hand side. I believe it's the third icon down. That's going to be your mentor link. It's not going to be available right now, but on Wednesday it will. From there, how do you get in connection with your mentor? You send them an email. Now, they may not respond right away. These are alumni from your organization. So you may need to send them a follow-up email, maybe send them a follow-up call, maybe send them a follow-up text. We provide you with their email and their phone number, as well as templates on what to say during that email and phone call. But it's up to you to initiate the conversation. Now, one point I just talked about right there was, is there a place to get tips and ideas on how your first call should go with your mentor? Yes, it's on the tips and templates tab on the dashboard. Left-hand side, we have videos, we have templates that you can copy and paste, we've got notes, we've got suggested questions to ask. We have everything that's there for you to make the most out of your mentor experience, but it's up to you to take advantage of it and to initiate that conversation. So one question I also hear often is, when should I have my first mentor call? By October 10th. That's typically a great date to have that first call set in. How you keep track of that is on our dashboard, there's going to be a little scheduler feature. You're going to click that and you're going to select the date that you scheduled with your mentor. And then the day after that, we'll send you and your mentor an email that says, hey, how was your mentor meeting? Thumbs up, thumbs down, or it didn't happen. And if it's a thumbs down or it didn't happen, we'll follow up to figure out what's going on. But we just want to be able to keep track that you're meeting with your mentor and that you're making the most of that experience. Do not procrastinate this. You do not want to have to wait until November to try to get in your 3 mentor calls. That is not the time to do it. You want to have it consistently spread out throughout the course of the semester. That's how you make the most out of this experience. So just to kind of clarify and just make sure this is crystal clear. Successful completion of this program means that you attend the 4 live workshops that we have and that you meet with your mentor at least 3 times and complete the post-program assessment at the very end of the semester, which we'll provide on the dashboard. We track your attendance at the workshop via your comments in the comments section. And then we track your mentor calls via the dashboard with that scheduler feature I just mentioned. So as long as we got 2 thumbs up, we're all good. The one thing I want to mention is that if a schedule conflict comes up, it's okay to reschedule with your mentor, but you need to tell your mentor this. Ghosting your mentor is not cool. That is not okay. Like, that would be constituting bailing on the program. So I want to be very clear. If you have a scheduling conflict, let's say your dog dies, let's say you've got a bad hairdo, maybe a test comes up. That's totally normal, but you need to text your mentor. You need to call your mentor. You need to email your mentor ahead of time to say, hey, I'm so sorry. We need to reschedule. Something came up. Can we reschedule for XYZ date? That's totally normal and that's totally okay. What's not okay is to find that out and be like, oh, what do I do? I'm just not going to show up and have your mentor waiting. That's bad. That's not the point of the program. So I just want to clarify that. So when it comes to this workshop is going to be 45 minutes long with another 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A. Now, our guest speaker this evening is Evangelia Leclaire. Evangelia Leclaire is awesome. She is, she's a professional speaker. She's a coach. She's a trainer. She's a facilitator with 18 plus years of experience, people operations, helping individuals and companies build their dream careers. She helps people rock their job search in 30 days. She does corporate coaching, training, and facilitation. She's an event producer and host of virtual summits, how to boost your brand's visibility in business without breaking the bank. She fosters professional development into company culture and addresses employee growing pains so that managers and executives can focus on growing the business. She's a dreamer, doer, trailblazer. She gets it. She's gone from campus to a career at a Fortune 500 company to a startup that she helped grow to be a global organization. She has leaned in, she has transitioned, she has pivoted, and she has side hustled. She gets what it takes to be successful, especially as a young person growing and pursuing the professional path. But before we jump into Evangelia, and before we go over more of her story and ask her some questions about how to get your foot in the door, I think it's important for you all to know who I am and my background. Because you might be thinking to yourself, okay, who's this guy Garrett? What makes him qualified to be running these workshops and teaching these skills about getting your foot in the door with professional opportunities? And so I'll give you a little bit of background on my story right now. So for me, from age 15 to age 19, I was a drug dealer. And I know that may sound crazy, but at the end of my freshman year at Indiana University, I got arrested in an undercover operation by the Indiana University Police Department. I got 5 felony distribution charges and I was expelled from school. And that hit me like a rock, because up until that moment in time, I had thought success was you go to school, you get good grades, you get a job, and then somewhere along those lines, you would find yourself, and like as if it was puberty, like it would just come to you. And nobody that I had ever known that I thought was successful ever was a drug dealer. So I either had to accept being a failure or redefine my definition of success. So after getting in trouble and after getting expelled from school, I enrolled in a program in St. George, Utah to help me turn my life around. And that was really a big turning point in my life. I got exposed to mentors. That's the first place that I got really exposed to mentors and the power of mentorship. And they helped me connect on both a personal and professional level, how my actions had affected the people around me. So on a personal level, I had embarrassed my family, I embarrassed my friends, I embarrassed my school, I embarrassed my state, I embarrassed my country. It was so embarrassing. And at that time, up to that point in time in my life, I thought I was Superman. I thought I was impenetrable. I thought like no one would notice and no one would care and that I would never get in trouble. But that was such a silly belief. And that mentorship really helped guide me. But on a professional level, they also helped me come to the grips with the fact that I had to be a stud, a rock star when it came to networking, because the first thing that you saw when you Googled my name when I was 19 years old was IUPD does drug sweeps for 8. I'm one of the 8. There could have been a bigger red X when it came to my background check. So if I were to get opportunities, I had to wow people in the moment that I met them. It was very much ingrained into me. I kind of call it, when it comes to teaching students about networking, network like as if you can't have someone do a background check on you. And about month and a half after moving to Utah, I flew back to Chicago. That's where my family's from, for the weekend, to let them know my life's getting on track. And on that flight, I'm sitting next to a guy, and he's wearing jean shorts. He's wearing a cutoff sleeve T-shirt. He's got sunglasses on, even on the airplane. He's got a goatee, and on appearances alone, I thought he was a landscaper, just to be honest. But I started talking to him. We built a relationship. We started a conversation, and by the time the plane landed, he said, "Oh, by the way, I'm the director of ground equipment for SkyWest Airlines," and he offered me an internship doing financial analysis on the spot. Didn't care about my background, didn't care about anything. He said, "I believe in you. I believe in hiring you. I believe that you would be a great asset to our team." And he took his neck out for me, and he took me under his wing and mentored me. And I'm extremely grateful for that. But the point I'm trying to make here is that you can be successful. You can get your foot in the door with opportunities, whether you're connecting with someone on LinkedIn, meeting someone at a career fair, or sitting next to somebody on an airplane. You never know what will happen and how you can get your foot in the door with opportunities, which is what this workshop's all about. By the way, just to fast forward you on my story, about a year after living in Utah, I got really lucky. I had my felonies dropped to a misdemeanor conviction. I was re-enrolled at Indiana University. I was accepted to the Kelley School of Business. And that's when I started to notice a problem. I had everything taken away from me, and I was able to get everything back. And I realized to myself, I wanted to make a change. I needed to make a change because I was in the Kelley School of Business, and at the time it was rated the #1 career service office in the country, which is amazing. It was, I don't know how they calculated, maybe it was on placement rate, I don't know. But what I was finding was so often, so many of my older friends who were in their jobs were miserable. They would talk about their work like I'm going to the grind or like dreading Mondays. And I would think to myself, how could that be? How could the #1 career service office in the country have so many young alumni that are in their careers that are miserable, even though they're working at Big 4 accounting firms or major investment banks or really prestigious marketing firms on paper? They weren't happy. They were living a career for their parents or God knows who, and they weren't doing it for themselves. And so I decided I was going to start Ambition in Motion because I wanted to create a scenario, a system where people could think for themselves and pursue the path that they wanted to pursue, and in a way that fit them. That's what this program is all about. Is how can you get connections and education so then you can be making the best, most educated decision for yourself when it comes to your career, so then you can be happy in your work. So that is my background. That is a little bit about me. So I would love to start the workshop. So before we get started in the workshop, I wanted to ask you, everybody in the audience, what is some of your goals? What is one of your goals for the workshops this upcoming? What is one of your goals for the program this upcoming semester? I love for you to write this down in the comments section. We would love to learn about what some of your goals are. By the way, if you have any questions about anything, you can ask anything about the program, anything about my background, anything for Evangelia or myself, but I'd love to learn from you. What are some of your goals for the program this upcoming semester? We'd love to see that in the comment section. So take about 30 seconds to a minute, type it in the comment section. Yeah, take a few more seconds, type it into the comment section. We'd love to learn your thoughts about what your goals are for this program. Peyton, awesome. Peyton Moore, to build a strong relationship with someone in the field I'm planning on working on. Amazing, very cool. Aaron, make new connection. Awesome. I mean, let's expand that even more. Let's make multiple connections. Thomas, to feel confident in my interviewing and networking techniques. Amazing. Mario, to learn how to navigate industry. Jason, you'd love to learn to network more. That's amazing. That's fantastic. Tell me more, people. Tell me more. Lena, I would like some tips on resume and cover letter. Madeline, learning to network, strengthen your resume. Tim, learn about your career paths. Love it. Alan, see my fit with working in the public sector. Bianca, amazing. Vladislav, amazing. Vibol, amazing. Melinda, amazing. Ursula, your goal for the program is to gain greater clarity on how to get to the career you want. That's amazing. I love it. Madeline, thank you. Nadine, amazing. Jessica, Sam, Ashley, fantastic. Nicholas, Cassie, Joanne, amazing. Thank you all for sharing. This is perfect. Keep sharing. I love to learn these goals. So, Evangelia, we're about to jump into you. But one final point that I want to bring up before we get started, I want to set expectations for this program, because through this program, like, I'm not going to hand you an internship. I mean, you might get set up with an interview via our employer network, but that's still very young, very new, and that might not end up happening. Like, there's no guarantees with anything. But I'm here to equip you with the skills and the knowledge to make the most out of this program, where you can take this and run with it and go get the opportunities you want. So I want to explain the 3 keys to success for this program. The 3 keys for success in this program are strategy, story, and state. So the first and most important key is your state. Like, physically, how are you? What state are you in? Are you pumped up? Are you amped up? Are you tired because it's the end of a late Sunday and you're, exhausted? Maybe you had a long weekend. I don't know. But I can tell you, if you physically are not in a state conducive for success, conducive for networking, conducive for applying this knowledge, you will not make the most out of this program. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to stand up and I want you to shake it out. I want you to let it loose. I want you to scream in the top of your lungs. Go, yeah, just let it go. Let it go. Be loose. Because what this does is it releases endorphins in your brains to get your blood flowing. It gets you ready to take in new knowledge. When you're sitting for too long in a period of time, have you ever had a 3-hour lecture before in a class? That sucks. You can't retain that information because you're sitting down, you're sedentary. You have to keep moving. So everybody, stand up, shake it out, let it loose, scream to the top of your lungs. That's how you get your blood flow going. If you're about to, let's say, go in an interview, shake it out, get your heartbeat going. That's how you give that effervescent vibe, that energy, that positive energy where people are like, man, I want to be around that person more often. That's how you do it. Get yourself into a state conducive for being successful. You can bang on your chest. Tell yourself that you got this. But that leads to my second point, is that your story. What's the story you tell yourself? Are you telling yourself a story that, well, I'm an introvert, so I'm no good at networking. I can't possibly do these things. Or are you saying to yourself, like, I'm an extrovert. I'm crazy. I can't contain myself around people. Here's what I'm here to tell you. Whatever you believe you are is what you actually what you actually are. Whatever you set your goal to be, that is exactly what you will achieve and no more. So if you tell yourself, well, I'm no good, or I'm not able to accomplish a lot of these things that I've set for myself in my life, you're not going to be able to achieve that. You're not going to be able to successfully accomplish that. I mean, if you tell yourself like, hey, I can't possibly network because I'm an introvert, or because I just you tell yourself a story for why you're not going to be successful, that story will hold you back. But at the flip side, if you tell yourself, man, I can accomplish anything. I have a vision for what success will be when it comes to this circumstance. I'm going to make this happen. You visualize it. You will manifest it. Even if it doesn't work out exactly how you want it to go, you will still be able to manifest the outcomes you want. Just like a professional athlete. Maybe it's Michael Jordan going down for the final shot. When he hits that shot, that wasn't the first time he rehearsed that moment in his head. He'd been rehearsing that moment thousands of times before then. So visualizing what success will look like, whether it means you're going to an interview, a networking event, LinkedIn outreach, a cold call conversation with a stranger you've never met before, but they might have insight for you, whatever. Tell yourself a story for why you're going to be successful. And then the strategies, that's what this workshop is all about, is how can you go about getting your foot in the door? What you can do to go about getting yourself out there, whether it be LinkedIn or career fairs or meeting with career counselors or meeting with friends or your parents' friends or whoever you can leverage to help you get your foot in the door with opportunities. And that leads us to our guest speaker. Evangelia, I've introduced you a little bit about your story, but I'd love for you to start and jump in. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
The big question, right? For everybody to learn how to answer. So I was on a journey of discovery while I was in college, and I made it very clear that that was my aim. I wanted to max out every opportunity. One, I came from I had a single parent we went so well for like 50 minutes. And I don't know if you can hear the child screaming, but I can.
It's okay.
So I came from a family where it was just my mom raising me and my sister. And so when my mom was putting me through college, I knew that I just had this mindset of I have to max out every opportunity. So while I was in college, I looked for every opportunity to grow and discover what it is I wanted to do. And so that included having 4 internships, working and also being in the band and all of the things. And so while I was in college, I took part in even two study abroad experiences, and an experience that had changed my life. It was a program called University of Dreams, which was all about helping me and people discover and pursue what it is they wanted to do after college. It was an internship and a professional development experience. It turns out that the program, I was part of the inaugural group, and I ended up maintaining contact with the founder of that program. And then 2 years out of college, my first opportunity was working at a financial service firm. It wasn't really a fit. Like, I enjoyed what I was doing and helping people grow financially, but there was something missing from me, in which I knew I was like called to help people grow personally and professionally. And so I'd contacted this professional development program and the employer or the founder of it. And it turns out that I ended up working for the company for 10 years. And the company was first called University of Dreams. Then it had changed to call itself Dream Careers. And I had done every role in that company, from working within enrollment sales to compliance to program operations to developing curriculum for professional development. And that was the journey that I was on in growing programs. And then from there, having had kids and wanting to start a family, I felt like my career, I didn't want it to stunt. And I felt like I was no longer growing working for that company. So I ventured out on my own to be a coach and a consultant in helping people build careers that fuel their life dreams. So that's kind of the big snapshot of what I did and how I got into this very interesting space that we're in.
Yeah, that's a really great story. My first question was how you acquired your first professional job, which you just explained. Well, I guess I want to dive into that a little bit deeper. You mentioned you got your first job in financial analysis, and you realized that wasn't the right fit for you. I want to jump more into that, but I want to go specifically because the whole name of this workshop is about getting your foot in the door. How did you get your foot in the door with that opportunity? Like, who did you meet? What was that like system of events, the series of events that got you to where you wanted to be?
Right. So I had 4 internships in college as a means to really discover what would be the right industry for me to go into. So I had a finance internship. I had a marketing internship. I had a nonprofit internship, and I had something else. Right. And one of those internships was at a financial service company where I was literally cold calling investment bankers at 8 a.m. all the way up till I think it was 4. And so that, I had actually finished a semester early, and my semester that I had finished was with Semester at Sea. So I came out like really buzzed and like kind of faded out of like, what am I to do with my life now? So I went knowing that I had kind of graduated a semester early. I spent that last semester just opening up the alumni book and going on informational interviews and buddying up with every person I knew within the Career Center to explore opportunities. And it turns out that within the Career Center, somebody had a contact, a cousin or something, that worked at this financial service firm that I had first interned at. And I interviewed with them, and it was just a really great fit in terms of the representatives that I'd be working for, and I'd be in a marketing director type of role. So that was the way I landed it. It was from just being able to connect the dots and see value in that I had experience working at that type of company before, or at that company, and that they really valued my skill set, and that I came in as a referral.
So what I'm curious to know is, when you had that internship for the prior summer, did you like doing that type of work then? I guess the question is, maybe I feel like sometimes what I'll see with a lot of students is they'll have an internship over the summer, between their sophomore or their junior and senior year. And they'll be like, it was okay. I wasn't like super passionate about it, but they did give me an offer at the end of the semester. And I'm nervous. Like, what if I don't get an offer? Like what if nobody loves me? Like, no, people will love you. But I think that's like such a mentality that some people have, where it's like, okay, well, it's a safe option. I wasn't passionate about it. Was that kind of a scenario you've ever faced or ever seen before? And what are your thoughts on that?
So me specifically, I I hated the internship working in
Okay.
the financial services because all I did was cold call investment bankers. And so when I was on this interview with the same financial service company, they assured me that I would not be doing that. I would be working with all warm leads, that I would be, and then so I was able to look through a different lens when I was vetting and exploring whether this would be an opportunity, a first time, full-time opportunity that I wanted to take on. That's number one. Number two, I went into every internship exploring if this is an opportunity that I would want to take and pursue full time. So, as an example, I worked as an intern at the United Nations Associations for the Adopt a Minefields type of program. And my internship there, all I was doing was putting together captions for people who had lost their limbs in minefields in like Kazakhstan and all these different countries around the world. And there was an opportunity. And then when I really explored it, I said, I don't think this is what I want to do. This isn't my calling. So I think that answers your question.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. So if I'm hearing you right, it sounds like you didn't like the internship. And I guess maybe when you got into the actual financial services job and you were like, okay, I don't know if this is the right fit for me. And then you transition into the next job, which was something that you seem to be very passionate about. What did you learn about that job that made you realize like this is not the fit? Did it feel like maybe it was a lot of the similar stuff that you were doing in that internship, or was it different things that you just also realized that you weren't as passionate about?
With my first job that I had for 2 years, what I realized about myself is I loved what I was doing in terms of client service and marketing. So I went in there with this learning mentality that I'm going to max out on my ability to interface with very successful professionals, and also in developing presentations and learning from these very successful financial reps. So I went in there with a growth mindset, which is what I'm going to max this out, and to a point where if I don't feel like I'm growing anymore, that's kind of was the sign for me to leave. So to answer your direct question, there became a point where I was just bored after 2 years. And I think, and I had actually presented it, there was a time where I had to actually seek outside work to kind of come in and bring positive energy into what I was doing. So I had to start exercising heavily. I started like shopping heavily. And then when I came back in, it's like I'd bring in that enthusiasm. And then I was told that I was being too enthusiastic, frankly. And that was like the wake up call for me to realize that this isn't the place that's going to fuel my soul and make me feel like I can be dynamic here. So that's my answer to your question.
I love that perspective. I think that rings true with a lot of students. And I think potentially for some students, unfortunately, maybe creates some anxiety because they're thinking to themselves like, oh crap, am I on the wrong path? And, I think what you have to realize is that it's okay. Like, it's not about the destination. It is truly about the journey. And it's for you and every student, for any person for that matter, it's about what you learn, the lessons you learn on the way there. So for you, that internship wasn't like the best fit, but the job was different. And at first it was engaging, but eventually you got bored with it. And I think that's like a great barometer for when is the right time to leave, is like, am I not being fulfilled here? And especially if you feel like your personality clashes, especially for something like being energetic. How could you, that's the craziest thing. Like, you're bringing positive energy into the workplace and your company's culture saying, hey, don't do that. That is good for you for recognizing that and then making a change. Because I believe that a lot of people might be nervous to think to themselves like, oh no, like, will people consider me a job hopper? Or like, will my parents be mad if I switch jobs? And I think ultimately, one, it's all about you. Like, it's all about your happiness. And your parents will be happy if you're happy. I think that there's a lot of parental pressure sometimes we feel to do something that is like pragmatic, or like my parents can brag about me, or like, something that, pays me a lot of money so I can stock my 401k. Not to say you shouldn't be saving for your retirement, but it's just, think about you when you're young, when you're 22, 23, 25, 27 years old. Think about you and like what you want to do, because ultimately that's going to set the tone for the rest of your life. You got the rest of your life to work and save up for those things. But it's like the early time is the time to really figure it out. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I, one thing that became a profound lesson for me too is and I'm learning, is if you have to get your energy from outside world to come into an office and be restored, because you're going to fall, you're going to have failures, you're going to have fumbles when you're working, right? Because you're learning. And if you're in an environment where your energy source isn't within the office, and in fact you almost like have to depend on outside sources to like kind of get refueled, it's not worth it. Like, that's what I realized. It's not worth it. So of course there's going to be an element of both. You can't 100% that your office is going to be the place that replenishes you and fuels you and fires you up. But if you're somebody that thrives on energy like I do, it's really important to at least use that as a barometer for really establishing if this is the right place for you to contribute.
That's really cool. I think I love that perspective. I think, what is this saying? You can't innovate, and not just in the entrepreneurial sense, but even in your own personal life, you can't innovate unless you're uncomfortable. Like discomfort breeds growth. And I think that's something you really hit the head on right there. So with the topic of today's workshop being about getting your foot in the door, are there right and wrong ways about getting your foot in the door? Like, is there a wrong way to go about networking? And is there a wrong way to go about like reaching out to people to let them know that you're interested in learning more about them, or just like trying to get yourself out there?
Yeah, I think the wrong way is when you think about it from a place of only you, or you think about it from a place of what can I get from this, or you think about it from a place of, am I going to get a job from this, or what is this going to lead me to? I think that place leads us to feel like, like nervous, and it almost puts a different front. It doesn't allow us to go about it with ease. So I like to focus more on what I think is a better state to put yourself in when you network, which is this state of curiosity, which is a state of contribution, which is a state of, like, I'm wondering where there may be an opportunity for me to add value to this person's life, versus, I'm wondering what I could get from this person, or if there's an opportunity for me to get a job here. So many people will rule out talking to somebody because they think that they can't get something from that person, or that person doesn't have a job for them. And that's just such a wrong mentality. It should really be about exploring and making that connection based off of, like, I wonder where there might be an opportunity for me to uplift this person's life. So I can expand on that a little bit more.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's such a great perspective. I think that's so crucial. I think what you just said there hits like the whole mentality of this program right on the head. I mean, if you're coming into Ambition and Motion, if you're coming into this mentorship program thinking like, okay, my mentor's going to hand me a job, or like if I don't get matched with a mentor in this specific precise field, then it's considered a failure. Like, if you were to considering that at the beginning, you're doomed for failure. It's back to that whole story thing of like, oh, like, what's the story you tell yourself? Because at the end of the day, if you're coming in with this expectation of like, I need to have this, or what can I get out of this? It's not going to serve you. It's going to lead to dissatisfaction. I think the saying goes, if you can trade your expectations for appreciation, you'll be infinitely more happy. And I believe that, yeah, what you just said was so true. So, even if you're a student, you're going into your mentor meeting and you're thinking to yourself like, okay, if you're thinking to yourself like, I'm expecting my mentor to hand me an internship or a job, like that's not going to work out for you. But if you go into your mentor meeting saying, hey, I'm excited to learn from this mentor and see where this goes, that's like where the growth happens. And by the way, we see this all the time. If you go into that mentor meeting with that open mindset of like, how can I potentially help this mentor? Because this is someone who's not just any Joe Schmo. This is someone who said, I want to mentor somebody from my organization. They are invested in helping you. They want to see you succeed. This isn't a stranger. This is someone who's warm, that wants to see you succeed. Take advantage of it. And don't come in with that transactional mentality of like, what are they going to do for me? Because that's not going to lead to a successful relationship. On the flip side, if you come in with that mentality, so often we end up seeing these mentors make amazing introductions for students, or helping them get their foot in the door with opportunities. Like, that happens because of a strong relationship that the student invested in their mentor and their mentor invested in their student, not from students directly saying, hey, what kind of jobs do you have for me at your company? So yeah, eventually I would love it if you could elaborate more on that.
Yeah, it's even just a concept that's going to enable you to thrive in business, which is how can I go the extra mile to explore how I can support somebody? So a lot of times young people think, well, what value can I add to this person? And first of all, I like to just repeat that it's about establishing connections from a place of curiosity and contribution. It's that simple. That's what networking is for me. And then it's a matter of exploring how I can make myself visible to add value to people. It's not visible to get likes or whatever. I need to continuously challenge myself to show up from a place of value and contribution. And so when I expand upon it, that's when with that mindset, your wheels will begin spinning as to where you can make that connection. So a lot of times people think, well, what value can I bring to this person? It's as simple as acknowledging that they are developing a product that is of interest to you, and you'd be curious to explore how you can write a review about it. So it could come in form, a value comes in form of acknowledgement, in a form of helping that person feel seen and recognized, helping that person see that you are there to champion whatever cause or product that they are looking to launch. That's when the wheels will start spinning. It doesn't have to be about you being able to dedicate some type of skill set right away or talent to that person. It's a matter of helping them see that you want to support whatever it is that they are doing through the form of recognition, through the form of writing a review, through the form of providing feedback, through the form of being a sounding board for them. It can just, all the ideas will begin to formulate when you at least come from that mindset.
Yeah, I love it. So I think I want to make a pause here and ask the students in the workshop just a quick question. And that question is, what are some things that you might be able to do when it comes to meeting with your mentor that you might be able to contribute to them? And by the way, I think one thing that I really want to add on that to Evangelia, I think, is the fact that just people like to be heard. People love to talk about themselves. Like, so often we don't get to actually, we love we love when people seem genuinely interested in what we have to say. And so as a student, even if you're reaching out to a total stranger on LinkedIn or meeting someone for the first time at a career fair, just taking the time and like being genuinely curious into them, because people love to talk about themselves, like, it's going to help build that relationship. So as opposed to just talking about you for the full conversation, they're going to lose interest quickly. I like to compare it to taking a group photo. If you ever take like a group photo with somebody, who's the person you look at first, last, and most often? It's yourself. And so of course it's yourself. And when it comes to people and when it comes to networking, when it comes to talking to people, they love to talk about themselves. They care about what is going on in their world. So when it comes to you as a student, think to yourself like, well, what do I have to offer? If I'm meeting a stranger that I've never met before, like, what do I have to offer? What would they care about me? It's the fact that you've got an open ear. And a lot of times people just want to help college students just because you're a college student. Like, just because you're genuinely curious into what they're doing, and you want to have an informational interview with them, you just informational interview with them. You want to know more about what they do and how they got to where they're at. And that genuine curiosity is extremely valuable. So I think you don't actually have to think about like all the things going on in the world. Sure, you should do your background research. If they publish an article, you should know what article they published. But just saying, hey, I'm genuinely curious into what you're doing and how you got to where you're at. Most people will take the time to sit down and talk with you.
Right.
So students, question is, what are some things that you would like to, contribute to your mentor and contribute to this mentor relationship? Because if you're only thinking about it from like, hey, what can I gain? You're going to hurt yourself. So I want to set that expectation properly. So take about 30 seconds, write it down in the comment section. Joey, my goal is to gain connections to the company that does medical devices. That's amazing. Garrett, amazing. Be more confident in interviews. Nicole, be more confident in interviews and possibly secure a strong career. Amazing. Emily, to learn how to network. Awesome. Neela, to make genuine connection with someone that you can give you advice in the field. That's amazing. Yeah, share more what you would like to get out of your mentor program. Sorry, but more about what you can contribute to your mentor. So take a moment, write it down. We'll give you a second. Take 30 seconds, write down what you think you can contribute to your mentor in that mentor relationship. Mario, that's awesome. To be a friend and a mentor, that's great. Aaron, to help them understand college students and how people looking for new jobs are thinking about the world. I love that. That's a great perspective, Aaron. Eli, giving them a younger and less jaded perspective of the working world. I love it. Very cool. Vlad, I can contribute my own experiences and life lessons while learning theirs. That's great. That's amazing. I mean, just because someone's older than you or more experienced than you does not mean that they have all the knowledge in the world. You do have something to share. Even though you might be younger than them, you might have maybe less experiences than them. Recognize that it's a two-way street. Sam, hope to be able to give your mentor insight and perspective of college students. Cassandra, to contribute experiences. Peyton, Neela, Rachel, Maddie, amazing. Give them perspective from college students. Love it. Bianca, new perspective. Amazing. Keep sharing. I love it. Emily, very nice. So, kind of like speed round, I want to, reserve this next part and this final part of the workshop into tangible strategies that students can use to help them get their foot in the door. So by the way, for all students watching, on the tips and templates tab on the dashboard, there's a little video I created about how to connect with people on LinkedIn. We've got a LinkedIn intro template, messages that you can use to introduce yourself, suggested questions to ask. So I think that's one way to go about it. But eventually, I would love to ask you, what are some things that students can do right now? So like tonight, what can they do, or even tomorrow, whatever? What is a routine that they could get into the habit of doing that can help them get their foot in the door with opportunities on a regular basis?
Okay, so if you've identified what opportunities interest you, or even if you don't know, I think number one is to recognize that you're not all over the map. So I think you can start with perhaps 1 or 2 or 3 industries, and then develop a short list of companies that interest you within those industries because you're interested in the product or the cause or the contribution, and then begin leveraging LinkedIn and some of the insights and templates that Garrett has provided to reach out. And I'm not sure exactly what that approach is, but if you build a schedule of perhaps 1 hour to 2 hours a day, where your goal is to simply become familiar with the people and add those connections and become familiar with people that are working at those companies, either within HR and or within the specific role that interests you, you will begin to build up clarity. Couple that with the outreach approach, and couple that with an approach that also helps you feel like you are going about this in a way that is of ease and natural to you. So, some people feel awkward when they use some of these strategies. So I think you need to find the outreach strategy that works for you. You as a student can simply take the approach that you are looking to compile insights and gain information from industry players as this field is emerging and the landscape is ever evolving, and you're compiling case studies. Would you be open to connecting? So I think you just got to find the approach that makes you feel like you're at a level that is of integrity to the fact that you are smart and that you have potential, not like you are any less than any one of these people that you are trying to reach out to.
Love it.
And so build a practice 1 hour or 2 where you're taking this approach from a place of curiosity, from a place of you acknowledging your worth and the opportunities that are abundant to you because you are exploring and you're doing it from a place that's going to be of value to the future workplace and to you as someone who's trying to find opportunities that fit you.
I love that. That's a really great perspective. And maybe for some students that are thinking about that in like 1 hour or 2 a day, like maybe bite-sized chunks. Maybe it's like 30 minutes a day, and then you build on that from there, because we know, because we've done this Evangelia and I have done this for years now. An hour or two really can make a massive difference. But getting into any routine, any daily routine of just regular, like what can you do tonight? What can you do tomorrow? What can you do Tuesday? What can you do every single day to get you in the habit of getting your foot in the door with opportunities? That will lead to results. Like, don't put all your eggs in that basket of that one career, like that one recruiter you met at a career fair that may or may not get back to you, but you're really optimistic. Don't put all your eggs into that. Put your eggs into multiple baskets. So I guess one question I have to ask is it okay to ask your professor or your mentor or family friends for introductions to other people in your space?
100%. That's how I did it coming out of college. Absolutely. And again, I think that there's this mindset or this block that, oh, I've never asked my family before. Oh, that might be weird. That's just you, for whatever reason, not having done it before. So once you start adopting it and you put the right mindset behind it, it's 100% acceptable. So it could just be a matter of you finding the right language that's going to make you feel that this is okay to do. So it could be like, I don't like to use the informational interview. I don't know if you say it. I know you say it actually, but I like to use the approach like, hey, I'm just looking to gain insight, like from from people that are industry leaders in the space, because it kind of puts you above that, like informational interview, like that's become such a trend that people kind of are just like, oh, what's that going to look like? It kind of sounds a little bit different. So I think like you can approach your family and friends with that mindset. It's like, oh, I'm looking to gain insights. I'm exploring opportunities, and this would be so helpful. Do you know somebody that you can introduce me to where I can, ask them a few questions as I seek to gain clarity on whether this opportunity would be a good fit? If you could practice that kind of language or any language, it becomes more of a habit and you get over yourself and this mindset of, oh, I can't ask my friend. Oh, I can't ask my professor. Oh, I can't ask my peers.
I love it. You know what? I should stop saying informational interview. Informational interview sounds like a homework assignment. It sounds like, hey, so I have this class that told me I need to have an informational interview. So can you just get on the phone for like 15 minutes? Like, I don't care what we talk about, but like, once I hit that requirement, I'm going to finish that assignment. We're going to be good.
And I'm going to have this list of questions that I'm going to awkwardly ask you. Like,
so true. So I recognize I was wrong for using the term informational interview, but I believe the concept, the notion, I just kind of used it for like shortened purposes, but I think you're right. A casual conversation where you can learn from an industry leader about what they're doing, and just so then you can get more education about what that work is like. Another quick question that I had before we jump into Q&A with students is, what if you become interested in a career path that's different from your major? Should you totally switch majors? Should you focus on getting your foot in the door with those opportunities that are in the area that you're interested in, even if your major is not exactly like that? I'd love to learn your perspective on that.
Right. Well, there's a reason you selected your major and you're so far into it. And if you, for whatever reason, choose and evaluate that it might be worth it to change, then that's up to you to consider. But I think that you can recognize and find that there's a lot of people in the working world who had obscure majors, whom are now successful in careers that had nothing to do with their major. So it is okay. I think the approach is for you to be able to speak to why you're in your major, because as a student, if you are exploring opportunities, an employer may ask you, well, why are you interested in psychology or philosophy or whatever it is? And you get to have a response that's relevant. And it doesn't have to be, 100% relevant, but at least it has to be intriguing, because it's commonplace for people to be in professions that have nothing to do with their major, unless you're, in medical field or an accountant, right? In accounting.
Yeah, well, and I love it. I think, I mean, that's why I share my story, my background of being a drug dealer, because it's so crucial. Like, you could look at that and be like, oh, well, what does this guy know? It's like, I'm a guy who had to literally like hustle and network so hard, because I knew that once you did a background search on me, that my credibility would have been out the door. So I had to build credibility within that moment. And that's why I'm so honest and so transparent about my story, because I know one, ideally how powerful it is. Ideally, it uplifts students and uplifts you if you're listening to this to know that, hey, if you made a mistake, you can overcome it. But two, yeah, if you're in a major that you're like, I don't know if that's a career path I'm going to go down, like that's an example of me transitioning my story into to fueling what I'm doing today. So I think that's a really great point, Evangelia. So by the way, students, if you have any questions for us, type them in the comment section. I'm going to ask Evangelia a couple more questions here while I'm waiting for you all to type some questions. So one thing that I'm interested, because I know that you've been on both sides of the coin, both being the interviewee as well as the interviewer. Have you ever hired an intern or recent college graduate before? If so, what did you want to see in that candidate before offering them the job?
I think for me, it was always a willingness to figure it out. That's number one, because I think it's somebody who has a willingness to want to learn and figure it out with me, right? Because there's so much with the world and business that is evolving and changing. And so I like to see somebody who doesn't just want to be told what to do and how to do it. It's, are you willing to figure it out, is number one. Well, that's not number one, but the other thing that made me hire people is somebody who is able to demonstrate and clearly with conviction, and you just felt it in their soul, why they wanted it. And so with the few people that were able to express that in words, even if their interview story sucked, if I felt that from them, I would hire them. And you it's just this feeling of that you're able to sense in people, because they are showing up curious, or you can tell that they want to be a part of your organization. So I never look for like the perfect narrative or interview story. It was more of, does this person have the ability to do the work and or figure it out? And is their character of a growth mindset? Are they somebody that's going to bring positive energy to the workforce? And number three, do they really want to be there?
Yeah, I love it. You know, another question I had, and this goes for students getting a mentor as well as, you know, maybe you just got your job, was how do you feel about, as a student or a young employee or even a mentee in their mentor relationship, sharing your professional goals and aspirations with your boss, or your professional vision with your boss and your supervisor? What do you think about that? I think sometimes we might think to ourselves like, oh man, it's really intimidating, or like, what if like they don't like my vision for my future? What are your thoughts about that, Evangelia?
I think if there's any time to share your vision for your future, it's when you're young, because you will be very supported in helping. You have such a clean slate of opportunity in front of you. So if you're lucky to be one of the few people that have a clear vision for what your future looks like, I would encourage you to share it, yet also be discerning with who you share it with and the timing. Because if you're sharing something and you may not receive the feedback that you like, or maybe no feedback at all, I would be, people may respond, you might respond differently. So I would ensure that the timing, maybe if you can take somebody out for coffee, a mentor or a colleague or a peer or somebody at work, and establish rapport where you're talking about their future and how you got there, and you set it up to share about your future or what you're exploring. You're creating a space for this conversation to be expansive versus constricted, because, oh, we don't have time to talk about that. And now you're like, oh my gosh, crushed because I shared something and I didn't get feedback that I wanted from this mentor that I like. So I just set it up in a way where you are expanding the conversation to be supportive.
Yeah. By the way, students, post your questions in the comments section. One last question that I had, Evangelia, that I think is probably really relevant for a lot of students right now. How do you manage stress when you're about to meet with somebody you've never met before?
I think part of it is the mindset of, I am here to just explore just being curious. So it's a lot about what I said earlier. I'm curious about this person, and I'm curious and I want to explore how I can connect with this person and where there might be an opportunity to contribute to what it is they're working. So listen more and have no expectations from what will happen there. If anything, your expectation should be, what can you give from in that meeting?
I love it. I think that there's that fine balance between visualizing what a successful outcome from a situation can be, but at the same time having no expectations. Because the nervousness only comes when you have an expectation of what you think in your mind should happen. And you're not nervous anymore when you don't have an expectation. When you come in open-minded, like, hey, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm pumped, I'm excited, I'm just going to go in it with like an open book. I think that's really where you can really reap the greatest rewards from these types of conversations. But at the same time, it is important to visualize what success looks like. You should be prepared to see, like, okay, cool, like if this XYZ thing happens, that's amazing, and you're prepared for it. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to expand on that a little bit more, if you know who it is that you aspire to be a year from now, and you kind of stake that out, even if it's not a clear role or title, but maybe it's something like, I am a confident leader in this industry. And then you begin to use phrases like, it is like me too, and put phrases that support who it is you want to be. And if you begin affirming that to yourself or allowing that to be your new narrative, you will see that your behaviors when you show up will change. So I think that expands on what you're saying, which is visualizing success. That's such a vague term. But if you visualize who you want to be 6 months from now or 3 months from now, before you even start interviewing, and you start telling yourself, now I am a confident leader who is entering the workforce within, tech, biotech, or wherever it is you want to go. And then you start saying, it is very much like me to walk into a room with ease, and with the mindset of exploring how I can support somebody. Your behaviors will start to shift when those opportunities actually arise.
Amazing. Okay, we do have some questions from students in the audience. So Melinda has a question: how can you turn an internship that you already committed to, that you find out you don't like, into something that is beneficial for you, so you don't feel like you're wasting / not enjoying your summer?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think this is one of those situations where you begin to realize this. You're saying to yourself, I don't like this. And so that already puts you in a constricted state where you've placed a judgment on it. And that's okay. It might not be the thing for you. Just like I knew that I stopped liking cold calling after like 30 days into, or like 3 days into it. But like there's a finite end date to your internship. And so now it's like, well, what can I learn from this? And it's that simple, because you're going to then take that narrative into your next interview. So if you look at it like, this is an opportunity for me to share what I learned from it, that's going to be a building block to what's next for you.
I love it. I think that's great perspective. I think the other thing you can do is just focus on who you can meet at the company. Like, who else is there? What relationships can you build, and the rapport you build, even if it's just a friendly conversation and just someone to be in your network. Like, maintaining those relationships and not burning any bridges, making sure that you're building that and having that, I think is crucial.
Right. It's such a good point, because the relationships actually help us feel so much better in the workplace. So I'm so glad you brought that up, Garrett.
Yeah. Bianca had a question. She said, once you get your foot in the door, how do you recommend going about maintaining this newly formed connection?
I think it ultimately comes to understanding what is important to that person. And if you really think about it, if you really get to a level where you understand human needs, some people feel extremely valued because of significance. Some people feel extremely valued by gifts, like that's their love language. Other people feel extremely valued by contribution. So it's a matter of you looking at who you're working with and understanding, how does this person feel valued? And then beginning to be conscious of how you can contribute to them feeling valued and you giving value to them. So that's something I think that's a very general way of answering that question, but I think it's important to understand what makes that person feel valued and what can you contribute to that person ongoing.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we even have in our tips and templates is a tip just called the network update email, where every 3 months for maybe a stranger that you've met before that's in your network, and you're thinking to yourself like, okay, it doesn't make sense for us to schedule a follow-up call, but I would love to keep them involved in my network, where it's literally a brief email that says, dear Jane, I just wanted to follow up with you to let you know what's going on in my world. Here are 3 things that I accomplished this past few months. Here are 3 things that I'm working towards. Would love to catch up sometime in the near future, learn your thoughts on this, and maybe learn any suggestions you may have about some of the things that I'm working towards, if you have any.
Right. And if you can add ripple effects to that person's life by letting them know how they impacted you, by what they taught you, what they showed you, something that they said to you. People forget what they say and what they do. And so if years later you could say, hey, remember that time when you taught me how to do this? Like, this is how it's benefited me. Thank you. And keep it like under 2-3 lines. Wow, that person is going to see you and say,
wow, top-notch professional here. And it's going to just also fuel their need for feeling like they did something for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Emily has the question, does an employer look down on someone who is applying for a job in that industry if their major has nothing to do with it and they have no experience in that field?
No, not entry level, 100% no. And it's a matter of how you position your story for wanting to pursue those opportunities. It all comes down to that. So if it's a matter, this stems back to you having a narrative and you being able to position that to what is next for you versus you thinking that if you don't have a narrative and you don't know how to position or explain why you want to pursue, then absolutely, like, they're just going to receive you and your narrative, which is, they will receive whatever you put out as your positioning into what you want to pursue, if that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. I think that makes a lot of great sense. You just, especially for a starting job, like, recognize that you don't have all the experience in the world, and that's not what they're expecting. What they're looking for is someone who can grow and learn, and they're coachable. And yeah, I think even if you're not, saying like, hey, I know everything, that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for someone who can learn. And so even if you don't have that major that's specific to that career path, it's okay. You can still apply for that.
Right. I know people who are in their mid 30s and 40s who change professions. And if their narrative is good and their why and their story, just like you told your story in the beginning, right? 100%, like, this guy saw something in you and somebody gave you an opportunity and opened a door for you because of that. So if your why and is compelling enough, or it's like meant for you, it's going to happen for you if you continue to go at it and trust that, like, your path, you can create a new path because you believe in yourself. Yeah.
Madeline has a question. What is your best networking tip and why? It's kind of a loaded question.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it all comes back to expressing, well, first of all, it's if you knowing my narrative. So, like, knowing yourself is the most important thing. So knowing that you have value. So you have a character, you have competencies, you have a communication style, you have some place where you can contribute and belong. And you being able to figure that out is big confidence for how you go forward. So I don't look at it like, who do I need to be a chameleon for when I go to this event? I look at it like, who am I first? And how can I show up myself from a place of curiosity and contribution? I'm still going to listen more than I talk, but I'm not going to be a chameleon. So that's my biggest networking tip.
That's a really good tip. I think that's really, really wise. Coming in with that right mentality. I think from another networking tip that I would suggest is just something we kind of talked about before, getting into a routine, doing something on a daily basis that, even though it's baby steps, will get you to where you want to be, whether that be connecting with people at companies you're really interested in on LinkedIn, or going to career fairs, asking for introductions. Like whatever you do it regularly. You don't like, it's kind of like working out. You are much better off doing a little bit of working out every single day than like really massive 3-hour workouts once in a while, and you don't really know when, and it's random. So I think that's my at least tip on networking. Just make sure that you can do whatever you're doing consistently. Megan Lepore has the question: how do you work on building your personal brand and conveying that when you meet others quickly?
The personal brand is interesting, and I think I like to start with a system where there's your character, there's your values, there's your character, there's your talents, there's your communication style, there's your essence, the energy that people feel from you. So I like to recommend that people take time and then there's where you can contribute and where you want to belong. And I think I recommend people take time mapping out narratives and stories that exist that support those areas of your life, and then mapping out future self stories that you want to reveal related to those areas of who you are and your brand. There's a few missing. And then when it comes to showing up, recognizing that a lot of this is you just showing up and revealing. You're not going to have a perfect brand right away. A lot of it is a discovery. And so when it comes to, that succinct, yeah, there's a framework. This is who I am. This is what I've done. Here is what brings me here today. And here's what I want to contribute. There are frameworks like that. Your elevator pitch or your statements of intrigue or the thing that's going to raise eyebrows for people. But your personal brand is something that evolves through your own discovery process. And I think it's important to evaluate all aspects of who you are and then begin showing up with a quick elevator pitch. But your brand is something that evolves over time because you take that time to self-explore for yourself first.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And we have quite a few questions, but I'm going to go over them real quick. I know that we have a couple more here. So Alan had a really interesting question. I think it's unique. He asked, how do you distinguish between a networking opportunity from just someone who's being friendly and trying to mind their own business? I think, well, I guess I'll answer this one real quick, and I would love to learn your thoughts on this too, Evangelia. I think when it comes to a networking opportunity and someone who's being friendly and trying to mind their own business, I think at the end of the day, really it's all about relationship building. Like, don't even think about the transaction of what they could do for you, and think more about what can we do? Like, can we build a relationship? Like, can this person be a friend? And don't focus as much about, thinking because when you're saying, Alan, when you write networking opportunity, I'm hearing could this lead to an opportunity for me? Don't even come in with that expectation, because if you're coming in with that expectation, it's bound for failure. I believe that if you come in with the mentality that, okay, I'm going into this relationship having no idea how this can work out, kind of like how I did sitting next to that guy in the airplane. Like, you have no idea who people will be, but you just be friendly and you put yourself out there and you share about yourself, but you listen, you take the time to be curious. I think that is the best way to go about doing it. And if, by the way, it seems like there's some synergy between what the person you're speaking with is working on and something that you're doing, maybe ask for a follow-up conversation. And so often that's where networking is. It's not like coming in with a stated mentality of what's going to happen next. Go in with zero expectations and see where it leads you. What do you think about that, Evangelia?
100%. 100%.
Cool.
I echo that.
So Joey Massaro, he said, how do you show your gratitude to your mentor and truly let them know how thankful you are? That's a great question. Evangelia, what do you think?
I think part of it is being able to articulate in words what impact they're having on you and why. So if you're able to recite back to them a lesson that you learned from them, or and how it's impacted you, that's important. And then another one could just be a simple, yeah, you want to say thank you, but I think if you're able to express something specific, that will that's my number one piece of advice.
Yeah, totally. So Evangelia, I know we're a little bit over on time. We've got a couple more questions in here. Would you be all right with answering just a couple more?
I would love to.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure I'm respectful of your time. Eli had the question of how to navigate looking for a new job before leaving an old one. So kind of like that moment when you were at that financial analysis and like company, and you thought to yourself like, I'm bored. Like, how did you navigate looking for that new job before leaving the financial job?
It was a little bit different, but I think what's most important is to begin reaching out to your network and expressing to them where you're at and that you are exploring opportunities. You're looking to gain insight. You're at a point where you are looking for new opportunities to learn. And so it's the language you use is important, but I think that's a time. I mean, we should never stop building our relationships with people and looking to gain perspective outside of our existing workplace. That's my bottom line must do. We should always look to reach out to others to gain perspective. So I think if in terms of how to transition into a new opportunity, it's about cultivating your existing network or reaching out to a new network and saying, hey, I'm looking into new opportunities. I'm exploring what might be my next chapter. I'm looking to gain insight and then sharing your story and what you've learned and why you're interested in learning something new and beginning to leverage a job search strategy that's robust. But it ultimately comes with creating a transition story for yourself.
Sam had a question of how he can make the vision he has for his future more clear to himself. One suggestion that I have, and I'm a big fan of guided meditation and just like closing your eyes and literally visualizing with like what you're doing, who you're doing it with, what you're looking. So for example, if you're going into an interview, I am a big believer and fan of closing your eyes and envisioning, what are you wearing? What are you doing to prepare for that interview? What do you look like? Are you doing a power pose before you go into the interview? Like when you go into the building, like when you shake hands, what is your handshake like? Are you making eye contact? When you meet with the interviewer, what does that interaction look like? What does success look like? I want you envisioning what successful outcomes from every stage of that scenario. That's one way I believe that you can do some great work in terms of getting a vision you have to make yourself more clear. I mean, even if it doesn't exactly work out the way that you like envisioned it, at least you're giving yourself a blueprint for what success looks like. What do you think about that, Evangelia?
I adopt a very similar approach, and the one that's most recent that's worked for me, especially because I can, is this. It goes back to what I shared earlier. If you have a vision, recite in a memo, in an audio memo on your phone, what that vision is. Big picture, and then begin to recite out loud what the behaviors are for you to be able to carry out that vision. So it is very much like me to have a community of people that rise up to support me and champion my endeavors, whatever it is, right? But spend as much time kind of purging your vision out on audio. And if you're working out, put those earbuds in, and instead of listening to a podcast of someone else's vision and information, listen to your vision that you have recorded for at least 15 minutes. And do that every day while you're working out. And you'll see that your subconscious mind will it will seep into your subconscious mind. And eventually the behaviors that you carry on, you'll notice as you listen to your auditory, you'll be like, oh my gosh, like 30 days in or like 6 months in, you're like, I'm actually doing the behaviors that I said I would do through this vision that I've recited out loud. So that's one addition that I'd add to yours, Garrett.
I love that. What a cool idea. Yeah, definitely. That's an amazing idea. Yeah, I've not done that before, but I'm going to do, that's going to definitely go into my normal routine. That's amazing. Mia had the question about getting over nerves and anxiety. I think we covered that question, just really coming in with no expectations for how the meeting will go. And just, I think another thing you can do is just like practice breathing exercises of just recognizing that, they are genuinely interested in you. They wouldn't have taken the phone call unless they didn't have a genuine interest. So even if you fall flat on your face or you mumble your words, it's okay. You've got nothing to worry about because they are here for you. So recognize that. Christopher, He mentioned that I'm about to graduate, and is it bad that I don't have any real future vision for my career, and I'm just open to exploring different paths? That's really good.
No, not at all. That's such a great question. And I think if you come about it, I recently interviewed, and she had asked me a question about what title I want or what I'd be doing. And all I knew how to express was my talent and what I want to contribute. I said to her straight up, like, I don't fit into a box. I can't put a title on myself. And I think that, and so she was like, you're just exploring. I was like, I'm exploring where there may be an opportunity for me to contribute my talents and my gifts, which I'm very clear on where they're at. And so as long as you own that you're exploring where to contribute, whatever it is you want to contribute, or even if you don't know, that's okay. I don't believe that we should, always have a clear vision. Many people don't, or that we should know what title we want to have or whatever. I just don't believe in that.
Totally. That's a really good piece of advice. Okay, we've got 2 more questions, and a couple just are very much focused on like the mentor program, which I can answer. But Nicholas asked the question, what's the best way / resource to use if you're conflicted between 2 career paths in which you have interest in both?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Well, the question is, what if the student says, Nicholas says, what if I have an interest in 2 career paths and I don't actually know how to choose? How do I go about deciphering which one's the right fit for me?
You should give yourself first of all, pat on the back that there's only that you have 2 versus 5 or 3. I think, it's a matter of exploring. So it's a matter of vetting out those opportunities through connecting with individuals who are in those industries, in those roles, in specific various different companies that fall within those industries, and maybe doing trial experiments on some of the work that you would potentially do if you were to explore both. So maybe ask if there's like, what would be some of the type of work that you would give to an intern, or what would be some type of, or conduct, gain insight from people that are in those interviews, and begin asking yourself, is this something that I would want to see myself doing? And then go with like a gut check of what seems like it would be most intriguing and fascinating and exciting to you. And recognize that even if you choose one and it doesn't work out, you can go the other path. You're not, there's no constraints that you have at this point in your life.
Yeah. Okay. Final question. I'm combining Vibol and Lena's question. Vibol's question is about how important is it to have internships, and Lena's question's about, should I just take that job even if I haven't really set my long-term goals yet? So I guess the question, I'm combining it, is how important is it to have internships? And once I've gotten internships, what if I don't necessarily know exactly what I want to do from those experiences? Should I just take that role and then kind of like figure it out from there?
To answer the first question, 100% absolutely necessary. There are people that started having internships as early as high school. Like that was 10 years ago when I was serving the internship market. So yes, to that first question, as far as if you don't know where to go, or employers will be okay. I'm sorry, I think I lost track of the second question.
The second question just was about, if I haven't set my long-term vision yet, should I just take that job and then kind of figure it out from there?
You could. That there's no harm in doing that. Everything's a growth opportunity. But also recognize that every decision that you make will then lead to subsequent opportunities for you. So I think there could be some type of criteria that you may want to evaluate or use when you determine if that opportunity is a right fit for you. If you want to just get in and start making money, and there's something about this opportunity that you think you can learn from, then that might be your criteria. Or there might be another set of criteria that you use. But I think it's important to have a set of criteria when making your decisions.
Love it. Yeah, I think that's a great perspective. Last 2 questions were from Nicole and Amelia. They're just about mentorship and like, what can I do to, like, what questions should I ask, or how can I structure that conversation? All that information is on our mentor tips and templates. Thank you all for being here this evening. Evangelia, thank you so much for being our guest speaker. This was amazing. Students, thank you so much for your participation. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you so much for being here. Remember, the deliverable from tonight's workshop is teach somebody something that you learned through the workshop. Take a picture with that person, upload it to our site. Alternatively, you can post it on LinkedIn and just tag us. Say, hey, I learned XYZ thing from the Ambition in Motion workshop, and tag us. So one or the other. I prefer, honestly, that you teach somebody, because we know that when you teach something, you are much more likely to retain that information. Thank you all for being here this evening. Have a wonderful rest of your night. If you want to watch a recording of this workshop, this link, you can just go ahead and rewatch it again. It's public. It's on YouTube. You can watch it anytime you would like. Have a good rest of your Sunday evening, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.